If you are an AI enthusiast or a software service provider, you should know what MCP means. MCP, or Model Context Protocol, is a protocol that enables structured interaction between an LLM and external tools. But what do we mean by external tools? An external tool could be anything: your HR system, your ERP, your CRM, or any other service that you want to integrate with an LLM. It can be as simple as a DB connection. But why do we need MCP? So let's take a step back. Traditionally, when you needed to interact with other systems, you'd rather use something like RESTful APIs. REST provides a standardized structure. For example, response codes, right? HTTP methods like get, post, put, delete. So when you look at REST APIs, you have certain expectation that it comes with a standardized structure. Similarly, MCP defines a standardized way for third-party tools and services to expose their functions. This allows LLMs to understand these functions and decide when to use them, instead of always generating response from its own internal knowledge. To put this in perspective, let's look at this diagram. You must have used tools like ChatGPT or Cursor. These are known as MCP client, and when you type a prompt, they interact with LLM. Now you can register your tools with MCP clients and provide context for your queries. Once registered, the client sends tools metadata to the LLM. Now the LLM knows what tools are available and when to use them. Let's say you ask, "What's the weather in Mumbai?" The MCP client sends your request to the LLM along with the list of available tools. Now the AI model has a choice. Should it generate response based on its built-in knowledge, or should it call a tool to fetch the real-time weather data? Since the weather changes frequently, the LLM decides to call the weather tool. Finally, the response is sent back to you. So in conclusion, MCP standardizes how tools communicate with AI. Let's take a look at this small demo. So in this demo, I am adding a Postgres MCP server to my Cloud Desktop app, which is basically exposing the function that reads the schema and a function which takes the queries and execute them on the database, of course in a read-only mode. Okay, so now you can see when I hover over this icon, it says me one MCP tool available, and it shows me the list of tool which is basically run a read-only SQL query. Now let's look at the prompts. So when I asked for the sales for the last year, Claude or LLM generated a query, a generic query. It assumed that there would be a sales table, but then the query failed, and as a next step, it queried my schema from the DB, and based on that, it understood that there's an orders table, and subsequently it generated another query to query the orders table, right? And it gave me a result that the total sales was like X number. But then I prompted again to only consider the suborders. So it kind of tried to understand my schema. Basically, it figured out that there is something called parent order ID, and again, it modified the query, sent to my tool, which is a Postgres tool, and it came back with a response. Now, once I was satisfied with response, I prompted again to filter this data for a particular account. Subsequently, it also figured that there is something called account ID in my schema, and it used that particular account ID to filter the orders table, which is basically sales data. All right. And based on the response, again, I subsequently asked to give me a chart, or present the data in a bar chart. So as you can see, it worked out the query, executed the query on the DB, got the response back, and generated a bar chart. So this is a simple example of how you can integrate different tools with LLM. Now, if you are a SaaS provider or a product company, and you really want to think that, is your product AI ready? And this is a good starting point to expose your product or services via MCP, so that it can be integrated with any LLM. If you are a developer, I think you should really look at these different SDKs using which you can expose your product or services to an LLM. There are like TypeScript SDKs, Python, Java, C#. There is another repository of all the available servers. Most of them are like open source code. So you can connect with your GitLab data, GitHub data, Google Maps. Like there's a huge list of third-party MCP servers which you can readily use on top of any LLM. So that's all. Thank you, everyone.